Hey folks, and welcome back to another video on this YouTube channel. Firstly, I'd like to thank each and every one of y'all for blessing me with 1,000 subscribers in less than 1 month. That is truly unbelievable, and I'm very grateful that people are enjoying the content that I'm providing. So thank you a lot for that. Anyway, in today's video, we will be talking about the ICT Unicorn Model. And it is not the most popular one of ICT's models or the most talked about one, but I think it's a great one to add to your arsenal. So if we take a look at my screen right now, you would see a normal breaker block. Okay, it's a breaker block because we take out this high before we get our market structure shift, right? So if we didn't take out that high, that would have been a mitigation block, right? But we take out the high, then we have a market structure shift, and then the last down close candle is our breaker block right here, right? That is what a normal breaker block looks like. But the only difference between a breaker block and the unicorn model is that the unicorn model is just a breaker block combined with a fair value gap. Okay, as you can see, we have a fair value gap right here, right? That is a perfectly fine fair value gap, but it lines up with our breaker block. Okay, so this is essentially what's called the ICT Unicorn Model. Okay, so it's just a breaker block with a fair value gap, and that fair value gap makes it a unicorn model. And all it is just a higher probability breaker block. Okay, but I think it's great to know because it does have a high probability compared to the normal breaker block. And I took a trade earlier today using the ICT Unicorn Model, and I thought we should do a little breakdown of that trade to give you guys a little more insight, because it's always better to get an example of an actual chart. So let's do that. Okay, here we are. So as you can see, this is where I placed my trade today. And I will show you exactly what I was thinking. So if you've watched my channel before, you would know that I need a higher time frame PD array as my delivery before I would consider entering a position, right? So right here, I had an hourly gap right here, a SIBI, right? That was hit. So I dropped to the 5-minute. And then I saw that we got our market structure shift here with clear displacement, right? We created a fair value gap. We also had an inversion fair value gap right here. But the main reason I entered this was because we had this breaker block that was overlapping with this bearish fair value gap, right? And then that goes from being a breaker block to now being a unicorn model, which has a higher probability of succeeding than a breaker block does. And as I've taught you guys before on this channel multiple times, I personally do not enter off of a breaker block alone, right? But as soon as it lines up with another PD array, in this case, a fair value gap, actually for the smart eye, a BPR, right? So then I'm perfectly fine with taking a breaker block, but it has to align with another PD array. And when it is overlapped with a fair value gap, that is what ICT would refer to as a unicorn model, right? So it is basically just a breaker block with a fair value gap, right? The breaker block overlaps with the fair value gap. Again, we have the fair value gap here that happened after the market structure shift. And after the market structure shift happened, we created this breaker block. And the breaker block overlaps with the fair value gap. So this would be a perfect ICT Unicorn model, right? And then, I believe I took full profits here. This was the 9:30 opening bell. So I closed. This is also a little tip for you guys. The 9:30 opening bell can be a little wild, as you could see. So what I usually do if I have a trade running over the 9:30 opening bell, I close 80 to 90% of my position, move my stops to break even, and then I let the rest of my position run through the opening bell, right? And I always move my stops to break even at internal and take partials. That would be here. This is internal liquidity. This is external liquidity. My full profits are at external liquidity. My partials and break even is at internal liquidity, right? So that is basically what the ICT Unicorn model is. If you already knew what a breaker block was, this makes everything way easier. But if you didn't, hopefully you do know what a breaker block is now after I just tried to explain it very fast. So again, all it is a breaker block that overlaps with a fair value gap. And all it does is make the breaker block higher probability. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned a thing or two. And yeah, again, thank you so much for 1,000 subs. I highly appreciate it. I am visiting the US here next month. I have a couple of friends over there that I'm going to visit. And I thought about doing a day in the life of a trader or whatever. So let me know if you guys are interested in seeing some IRL content. I know some people really enjoy that. I know I used to do. So let me know if that's something that would interest you. And yeah, anyway, thank you so much for watching. And until I see you next time, stay blessed and bye-bye.